wonderful conference I've heard so much about. It's got a wonderful history, and so many people put in so much time for this wonderful conference to take place. So thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I wanted to share with you just briefly a little bit more about how it came about that married men can be ordained as priests. And what happened was, in the late 1970s, a group of Episcopalian clergymen wanted to become Catholic and also wanted to see if they could be ordained as Catholic priests even though they were married. And they did their homework and found out that there was a precedent for this, and that Pope Pius XII, back in the 1950s, had given permission for a small group of Swedish Lutheran pastors who were married to come into the Catholic Church and be ordained. And so they wrote to Pope Paul VI at the end of the 1970s, and with a typical American chutzpah said, "Holy Father, we want to become Catholics. What about letting us be ordained as Catholic priests?" So, I guess this is about 1978. The letter gets to the top of Pope Paul VI's in tray, and he reads it, and he says to his secretary, they want to have a married priest in the Catholic Church. What do you think? And the secretary says, "Well, you're the Pope. You're the Holy Father." And Pope Paul VI said, "Not in my lifetime." And he died. So you remember what happened. Pope John Paul I was elected the smiling Pope. He gets his white robes, his white hat, his white shoes, and he gets organized, and after the first month, the same letter is still on the top of the in tray. So he reads it, and he says to his secretary, "They want to have a married priest in the Catholic Church. What do you think?" And the secretary says, "You're the Pope, Holy Father." He says, "Not in my lifetime." And he dies. And so all the cardinals come back from all over the world, and they have to elect another pope. They've just been there a month ago, and they elect Pope John Paul II from Poland, and he comes, and he gets his white cassock and his hat, and as he gets all organized, he gets into his office. There's the same letter. And he says, "They want to have married priests in the Catholic Church. What do you think?" Secretary says, "I think you should say yes, Holy Father." Well, that's not exactly how it happened. But it makes a good story, and that is actually when it happened. And it was Pope John Paul II, who I believe George White was going to speak about later today, who took this courageous step and actually instructed the bishops and set up the procedure and said, "Be generous to these men." And that's exactly the wonderful warm response I've had as a convert, first to the Catholic faith and now to the Catholic priesthood, of a warm generosity. People say, "Gee, aren't the celibate priests jealous or anything like that? And don't they get mad at you?" And I say, "They haven't met Mrs. Longenecker." She doesn't mind me saying that. That's actually her joke, okay? So, in case you're worried, she's wonderful. She supports me in my ministry, and she really is very supportive in all of this.